It is time for the live stream sewing class. Thanks for joining the live stream class. We are going to finish up the Orla dress from French Navy Patterns. And yeah, I am listening to my own live stream. So I'm going to turn that off. So we're going to do a lot of things on this dress. We are going to put a zipper in. We're going to hem the upper part because my zipper is not going to go up all the way. And we are going to hem the neckline, the neckband. We're going to sew up the sides of the dress, and we're going to hem the bottom. So we have a lot to do in the hour, and if I don't finish, there's a major lag on this and it's messing me up, so I'll just not pay attention to it. Sorry, so that's why I'm a little bit distracted. Usually it's right live with what I'm saying, and now there's like a 2-second delay. That's all right. Like I was saying, if I don't finish everything up with the dress, I will make a video for anything that we don't finish. I want to keep these live streams to 1 hour because I think that's plenty of time. But in case I don't finish, I don't want to rush. So in case I don't finish, like I said, I'll make a video and include a link to that. I do want to talk about a little bit about what Hip Stitch Academy does. And we do have online classes that you all can participate in. So these are classes that are done similarly to this. There's usually actually 3 camera angles for the classes. I'm trying to get 3 camera angles going for these live streams. Have not figured it out yet. But for the classes, we have 3 camera angles. You're participating, you're asking questions, and we make projects. So what I have coming up in May, as you can see up on the screen, I hope, is that we have the dress lab. That's a 3-week class, and we're going to make the Elodie dress from Closet Case Patterns. We have the sagebrush top. That is a little bit more fast-paced of a class, whereas the dress lab, we're going to go nice and slow. You know, it's aimed more for like beginners, but it's a tougher pattern. The sagebrush top, very simple pattern, going to be done in 2 classes, and then the Hadley top starts in June. And then even before that, April 15th, we're starting the Brassy Joggers. April 27th, it's a 2-week class to do the Arlo track jacket. And then in May on Thursday nights, Rachel's teaching that 4-week Learn to Sew Lab. So that one's for complete beginners. So just wanted to mention those classes. All right, so she needs to cover her butt, I think. So we are going to start with putting this zipper in, and I just want to talk about that real quick. I am very much a believer in using what you have. So I have this, I don't know, 18 or 16 inch, probably 18-inch zipper. And most of the zippers that I buy are this length. They're kind of universal. For dresses where you need the zip to at least go down past the waistline, you obviously have to start it a little bit lower. But like I said, I'm going to show you how to hem above where the zipper is. We can add a hook and eye at the top. It'll be just fine. There'll be, you know, like a slight opening here, but it's a great way to make the zipper that you have work. I guess it probably comes from my upbringing where we lived in the middle of nowhere and you had to use what you have because you couldn't just like run out to Joann's and buy the zipper that you need. So I just am always like a big believer in just use what you have. So shorter zipper, gonna show you how to make that work. Real quick, that's the dress that we are making, the line drawing of it. If you go over to my website, you can get the download if you want to make it in the future, or if you're watching the recording and you want to grab that pattern. Just head over to hipstitchacademy.com and find the Lunchtime live stream. It links over to French Navy. No, I think it links over to one of a sewing magazine that French Navy partnered with, I believe. Not sure. Anyway, it is from French Navy Patterns, and we want to say thank you to them for providing that. And that's the really cool thing about this class too. Not only is this a free class, we're using all free patterns. You do have to find fabric to use for these projects, but everything else is free. All right, let's get this off of the dress form and let's work on putting the zipper in. So I'm going to put it on, or I'm going to put the back edges together with right sides facing. And I do have the selvage with the writing on here, but we're going to use a giant 3/4 inch seam allowance when we put the zipper in, so that is all going to go away, don't you worry. So first step is starting at the neckline, pin the edges together, okay? And I've got some bias tape to use for that neckline, but let me lay that out. And of course I'm using stretch knit on this, that it is rolling on this edge, so I'm just gonna pin it a lot right now because I want to get that roll out. So I'm basically like flattening it and making sure the edge goes together and then sticking a pin in. I don't think I sewed all weekend, which is kind of weird because I've been sewing a lot. But for some reason I didn't sew this weekend. So I feel like maybe I need to, and I haven't sewed this morning at all. Get my groove back a little bit here. All right, so we're gonna pin it to the waistline. Make sure those waistline seams match up. You can split the seam allowance if you want, or you can do one going up and one going down, which is what I'm gonna do, split the difference. And I'm gonna stick a couple more pins in here so it doesn't roll. Okay, and then I want to keep going past the waistline about 3 inches. I don't know, 2 inches is probably fine. Whatever. I'm gonna go to here, and of course Monty has been elsewhere all morning, and the minute the camera goes on, he's here helping. He's very helpful. Okay. Let's just move off so you don't block the view there, Monty. And you can see I've pinned all the way from the top down below about 3 inches. My zipper needs to go to where the pins start, but where that zipper ends at the top is where I'm gonna start sewing with my 3/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm gonna stick 2 pins there to know this is where I'm going to start sewing. This is not going to get sewn. I'm going to start sewing from here down. And the other thing I want to make clear is because we're putting a zipper in, the sewing everywhere the zipper is, so from here to my top finger, down below to my bottom finger, that is going to be done with a very large basting stitch. So I'll make that 2 pins so I know where to end. That is going to be a basting stitch all the way from there down. Oh, Muncie. All the way from where the zipper ends down is still going to be the 3/4 inch seam allowance. However, I'm going to go back to a regular stitch length. Okay. So I do still want to pin because I'm going to sew it and then it's just going to remain sewed. Whereas where the zipper is going to be, I'm going to pick that out with the seam ripper to reveal the zipper. All right, so almost to the bottom. Let me see if I can see if there is. Yeah, so if you're watching and you would like to say hello, there is a live chat. So you can say something in the live chat, say hello, where you're watching from, or you don't have to do that. All right. So I've got, let me just move that over. I have got, God, it's like time flies on these things. We're already 12 minutes in. I'm starting to sew at the double pin with a very large basting stitch. My basting stitch is going to go down to where these double pins are. And then I will change the stitch length back to a regular. On my machine it's 2.5, and a lot of machines it's 2.5, and then I'll sew all the way to the bottom, but I am going to keep that larger seam allowance here so it remains straight all the way down. All right, so I'm going to move the pattern and see if I can get my sewing machine shown a little more here. Okay, so I'm starting at the double pins. I'm going to remove those pins. And I'm going to actually move my, let's see, I'm going to go to a straight stitch, move my needle position all the way over to the left as far as I possibly can. And then I'm also going to change my stitch length up to 6.0. And then actually, I think I'm still going to bring this over and have the edge of the fabric follow the line on my sewing machine rather than the edge of the fabric. Okay, so I'm not going to backstitch because this is basting. And it's going to go really fast because the stitch length is so big. And here where the selvage is starting to show, I just want to make sure I'm sewing at the edge of the selvage. And I've gotten to my double pins, changing my stitch length back to 2.5. And I'm actually going to do a little back stitch. So I'll go forward, go back, and now it'll not move through so fast because it's a regular stitch length. Okay. Alrighty, I'm gonna go to my overhead camera, move that pattern. And because I haven't sewn my sides, that is going to make it a lot easier to put this zipper in. So my basting starts right there. And what I want to do is, if I had the iron here, I could press the seam allowance, that nice big seam allowance, open. But I can finger press it out flat. And then what I'm going to do is take this zipper, and you can see the zipper pull. I'm going to put the pull face down onto the seam that I just sewed. And I want to be really careful as I roll the zipper teeth down and then pin it. So making sure that the seam allowance stays spread apart, the zipper teeth go right on the seam, and you'll see that'll carry us through the waist and end right about here. So I'm going to stick a pin right at the bottom. I'll stick a couple more. And I'm actually going to be sewing it on the right side. So these pins on this side are only temporary. And then I'm going to flip and let's get that zipper pull up. I'm going to pin on this side. But because I pinned on the other side, these pins I know are going to be in the right place even though I can't see. I can feel though that the teeth are right down the center. So I'm just going to pin as many, if not a couple more pins on this right side, because that's what I'm going to sew. I'm going to sew down the left side of the seam, down to that last pin, over, and then back up. And that's how my zipper's going to go in. And then these basted, you can see, because they're basted, you can see they're going to be really easy to pull out once that zipper is sewn on. And that is where that last pin is. So I'm going to stick my last pin there, and that's where I'll know where I'm going to sew across the zipper. You just have to make sure that you don't sew directly onto that little metal stopper, because when you sew it, oh, and then my selvage is showing like a little spot right there, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. I've got lots of pins on the right side where I'm going to sew. And then I want to take all these out. And I can't really show you exactly what I'm going to sew over on the sewing machine. That was kind of why I wanted to get that third camera view going, but I will figure it out eventually. I want to show you, maybe you can use this little screwdriver as like a pointer. I'm going to sew directly to the right of the zipper teeth. I can feel the zipper teeth right along that seam, and I'm going to keep my presser foot right up against the zipper teeth and sew all the way down. Oh, I'm past the camera view, sorry about that. Down, down, down until here. And then I know that I'm not going to be right on the metal zipper stop, so I can sew over it. It's only going to be like 3 or 4 stitches. And then I'm going to turn it around and sew exactly the same thing going up that way. Okay? So here we go. So it makes it really easy because I don't have to worry about the front of my dress being on the other side. The sides have not been sewn yet, so it makes it super simple. Okay. So I could put my zipper foot on if I really cared that much about it, but I'm not going to because I can go all the way to the left-hand position with my needle. I do, oh no, I'm not in a basting seam anymore. My needle's all the way to the left so that my presser foot can be up against the zipper teeth and the needle can be as close as possible to the zipper. So here goes. I am going to do a little back stitch at the beginning, and I actually am starting slightly below the zipper pull. The zipper pull is up here. I skipped about a ½ an inch that I'll get it later, just because I don't want to worry about hitting the zipper pull. And as I go, I can feel my presser foot just kind of going right up against the zipper teeth. Because you've got to make sure that you're hitting the zipper underneath. And always make sure too that you've got a color of thread that will match what you're sewing. I'm using white. I thought it would show up a little bit better for when I'm showing you guys what I did. And it's white is fine on this too, but it's a top stitch. So it's a thread, it's stitching that you're gonna see. Okay, across this waistline, making sure nothing else is getting under there. And down to that last pin. I'm going to put my needle down in the fabric, lift my presser foot up. I'm going to turn and sew. Ooh, and I hit the, wow. I did hit it. Oh my goodness. I'm going to move this dress form out of the way. I totally just broke that needle. Wow. Let's see. Holy cow, I was right on the metal zipper stop where I told you not to sew. So, no biggie. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer and I'll show you changing. Yeah, look at that. I was really confident that I was past it. Not the case. So you hit that metal zipper pull or zipper stop and you're going to break a needle like I did. So let's see if I can find some needles here. Here's one. I don't know what the differences are here, but I'm just going to grab this one. Put this back in. And grab that screwdriver that I was using as a pointing tool. Now, if you're changing, let's see if I can get you a little closer. If you are changing the needle, you have got to hold the needle that's still in there with your fingers while you loosen the screw. Because you do not want, oh my gosh, I'm doing everything I'm telling you not to do. You don't want that to fall into your sewing machine. So I've grabbed it, I've pulled it out. Now I've lost the needle. Here it is. here it is. Most needles will have a flat back. Make sure that the flat back is away from you when you put that new needle in. Make sure you don't stuff the thread up. Let me get that thread out of there. Push it up in there. Make sure it's loose enough so it goes in. There we go. Push it up until you can't push anymore, and then tighten it with your finger, and then tighten it with your screwdriver. All right. I will throw away the broken needle. I think the other part of it's still on my dress. Let's hope. Let me just cut this. All right, I've got my needle changed. Back that up a little bit. Okay, back in business. Let me go back to where the broken needle occurred. There's the tip of the needle that broke. All right, so here's my plan of action. I am going to sew further down, and I'm gonna mark where I'm gonna go across with a pin. That way I won't hit that metal part again. All right. And I want to start sewing where a little bit before where I left off. So if I put my needle down, no, I've just taken that was dumb. Took my needle out. Okay. So I'm gonna go past where I thought I was gonna go to. Put my needle down. Lift my presser foot, and let's try this again. Ooh, I made it. Okay, and I lied. It's more like 6 stitches to go across. And then same thing, needle down in. Get to like the same distance away on the opposite side, and we can start sewing it. Okay. I still feel my zipper teeth, and I feel my presser foot up against those zipper teeth. As I go. And on this side, I feel like I can get all the way up without hitting something. Well, we'll see. But I shouldn't. Yeah, and then do a little back stitch. Okay, so my zipper's on. I'm going to, here, I'm gonna bring it back over to the table so I can show you. Exciting. Okay, so here's the back. And hopefully you can see the stitching, right? On either side of this zipper. And then if you go inside and look at the zipper, I've had an issue here where my seam allowance got caught up in it. It's okay. I can pick that out and redo it. Oh yeah, and then a bunch of dust got in there. Oh, that's nice. I could pick that out and do it again. But it's not that big a deal. It's just my seam allowance. So I think that happened when I started up again. But what I wanted to show you is that the white stitching, you can see I have successfully hit the zipper the entire way. I do need to finish it up here because it stopped right here. It didn't go all the way up like on this side. But I think I'm gonna pick the basting seams out before I do that. So that's gonna be really simple because we did giant basting on here. So you can see I'm just taking the stitching out to reveal that zipper. Okay, and I'll finish that up after the live stream. And then the other thing I will do is I will just sew some stitching from here to here. I'll finish that up as well. That will reveal the zipper the rest of the way, but you can see as you give it a little bit of, pull apart, you can see those stitches, and you can either use these tiny snip scissors or you can use your seam ripper to get those, but I'm not going to do it now because that'll just take too much time. Okay, so that's the back. I'll just cut these while I'm looking at them, and I'll back this up. Okay, so that's the back. Now I've got the front, and I'm gonna start at the shoulder and pin each of the sides, starting at this little sleeve here. And again, I'm just going to divide the seam allowances, match up this waist seam, divide the seam allowances again, stick a pin in it, and get the rest of that side seam together. And I'm going to pin it all the way down to the bottom. If they don't line up perfectly, don't worry too much about it. You're going to hem it, and that's when you can make that level. If it's not, mine are pretty close. I think what am I looking at? The front is slightly bigger than the back, and that's okay. Okay, so that side is, so you can see what's happening here. Let me see. Shoulder, side seam. That's what we're gonna sew. We're gonna sew exactly the same thing on the other side. I think I'm going to sew it without pins. Don't tell anybody, just for the sake of time. Okay. Because mine is knit, I'm going to go back to a small zigzag. was very sloppy with my pins, and I just took them out and threw them in this pile, which I always discourage students to do. But I think I was trying to hurry, and then I just got into a weird zone, and I did that. Anyway, my side is sewn, and I'm trying to think if I should. I think I'll sew the other side just quickly, like I said, without pins, and then I'm going to show you how to do this neckline and where above where that zipper is. So let me just sew this real quick. 2:37. We've got about 22 minutes left. Sewing without pins at home, it's totally fine. I think everybody does it. You just want to like stop every, couple seconds and just make sure that your raw edges of what you're sewing are lined up. And as you go, making sure that things like the waist seam are lined up as well. So now I'm at the waist. Those two seams are right on top of each other. And now I just sew from the waist down to the hem. And I'm careful not to stretch anything as I go. And notice I went the same direction. I went from the armpit down to the hem. And I think that's always a good rule of thumb. And then again, I think the front is slightly longer than the back, but like I said, that will go away when I hem it. Just want to mention, as always, you've got this seam allowance that is really curling in this case. You can always zigzag over that if you're not using a stretch knit like I am, or if you're using a stretch knit like I am, I probably will just trim these or just serge them to get rid of all this extra and neaten things up on the inside of the garment, or do nothing. Don't worry about it. For years and years and years, I sewed and never really neatened up my seams. It didn't bother me at all, but it bothers some people. So those are just things that are up to you. Okay, let's go back to the overhead camera roll. And we've got a big lump of a dress here, and now we've got the waistline, the sleeves, and the neckline. Now I'm going to, and that's why I have this bias tape. I'm going to use this white ribbon bias tape for around the neckline, but before we do that, we do have to, well, first we're going to trim some of these threads, and then we're going to I'm going to do a double folded edge, 2 really small ones, just like that. Try to get it to lay flat and then pin. So can you see that? And then I'm gonna stitch right on the edge there. And then same thing over here. It kind of just curls into what it's supposed to do anyway. So I'm just pinning, and I always try to pin perpendicular to what I'm gonna sew. You could stick the pins like this if you want, but if you can get them to go across what you're gonna sew, I think it works better. Especially like taking the pins out as you sew. You can grab it from either side. All right, so I'm sewing along that edge over here. And so that is going to give you that nice finished edge here so that you can put a hook and eye and have this cute little keyhole at the top of the zipper. I'll show you what I mean in a second. Just get that and that. So I'm gonna sew that. And I'm going to sew it with the right side up because I just feel like my stitching always looks nicer with the right side up. And it's such a small fold. I know what I'm sewing on. Do a little back stitch. And while I'm here, I had that little bit of the zipper that was not sewn on. So I'm gonna get that because I'm lined it right up right here for that. Okay, and now a little bit of sewing on the other side. Of course, I have my pins. I'm just going to move those real quick. Get that last pin. Turn the whole thing right side out and take a look at the back where the zipper is and where the thing that we just sewed is. My stitching is a little messy, but I think it's gonna be that way because I feel like I'm rushing a little bit with these live streams just so I can show you as much as possible. And the thread colors showing up a little bit, which I'm also doing that on purpose so you can see it. Okay. So now zip goes to there. Like I mentioned, the hook and eye is going to go right up at the neck edge. And you're going to have this little keyhole opening here. And I think that that is a small price to pay to use a zipper that we had that was slightly shorter, but we made work. Okay. Now for the neck edge, we've got the bias tape. I've got this giant piece that I didn't even iron, but that's okay. And I'm gonna find the middle. So I fold it in half, find the middle, put that right side down onto the neck edge of the dress in the middle. I've got enough extra that I don't have to be super precise, and I'm gonna start pinning the bias tape to the neck edge. And like I always say, you've got to make sure that the dress underneath, the neck edge of the dress underneath, is peeking out. Let's see. Just a little bit, because you've got to make sure that when you're sewing it, you're sewing both the bias tape and the dress underneath. So the way that I make sure that that happens is that I make sure that the dress edge sticks out past the bias tape when I'm pinning it, and then when I'm sewing it as well. Because what's going to happen is that bias tape is going to get folded over, and then you won't see the raw edge of the dress. Continue to pin that. All the way to the end. And then what I'm going to do, because I don't need it, I mean, I guess I could leave it on there and then that's how I could tie it, but that's not how I'm going to do it today. So I'm going to cut it off, and then I'm actually going to fold it so that this folded edge lines up with the folded edge of the dress, and then I'm going to pin through all that. Okay, so now my bias tape is pinned on my neck edge. Oop, I've got 10 minutes left. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna pin that other side on real quick so that I can sew the bias tape, show you how you flip it over, sew again, and then you get that nice finished neckline. Let's see if I can get that done in the next 10 minutes. And then the hemming, I will do that in a video so you can see the dress finished up. I haven't even tried it on. I have no idea if it's gonna fit. It's stretchy, so honestly I think it will be fine. Y'all see what I'm doing? Again, folding the extra. All right, cool. So now here's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to take a really probably about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, making sure you can kind of see there's 3 little lines on this bias tape. I'm going to focus on sewing in between these 2 lines right here, all the way around to the other side, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, let's sew this. And I'm going to change it to a regular straight stitch because this bias tape is not stretchy. What just happened? I don't know if this needle is not happy with this bias tape, but that was a little weird. Let me just rethread. Back that up and try it again. That seems to be fine now. Okay. And again, make sure that you can see the edge of the dress peeking, the neck edge peeking out. I feel like what I'm showing you is like my stomach. There. Not that you can see that any better. And I'm focusing on staying in between the two lines on the bias tape. God, I really want to get that other camera working so you can see better what is going on the sewing machine. Like I can do in our Zoom classes, but for whatever reason, I can't figure it out with the streaming software. Anywho, I will figure it out. This is only what? Our third live stream. And I think they've improved as I went. I don't know. I would hope you would say that they have. It's like I want to talk while I'm sewing, and I feel like you probably can't hear me, so I'm not going to. And almost to the other side. I feel like my hand is like blocking everything that's happening anyway. All right, and now I'm to the other side. Back that camera up. Here, this tape is sewn all the way around. I'm going to snip some threads and show you. Probably want to press that tape to go in, but I'm just going to use my fingers. Finger pressing works. I feel like it does. I think this weird bias tape that I found might melt if I iron it anyway. So, finger press it and kind of just like randomly pick spots and then meet in the middle. I always feel like that's a good way to do bias tape so it doesn't get crooked. Like you don't start putting it in crooked. Yeah. And you want to do it so that the bias tape is not showing on the outside. I don't know how I feel about white top stitching on this neck edge. I don't think I love that idea. Let's see if I can find some do black though either. I don't know. Well, let me finish pinning it. You can see right at the end, it finishes it off nicely. And this is super thin bias tape. So if you had thicker bias tape or a piece of fabric cut on the bias, probably would be a little bit easier. I'm just working with a really thin bias tape because I just had a bunch of it, but I don't think I'll ever in my lifetime use the amount of bias tape that I now own. There. But it does come in handy for things like this. I'm not sure how they wanted you to do the neck edge on the instructions, I'll be honest. Some of these free patterns, the instructions are not, and I'm not knocking them. I think it's wonderful that they give you these free patterns, but if you don't have a ton of sewing experience under your belt, sometimes the instructions can be hard to follow. So that's kind of another reason why I'm doing this. So you can do these wonderful free patterns and have some instructions. So I'm going to top stitch the neck edge. I'm going to sew on the right side, and because it's such a thin bias tape, I can sew right on the edge. And again, I can use a straight stitch because the bias tape does not have stretch to it, so I don't have to worry about using a zigzag, and I'm just going to use white. I was thinking about changing my thread, but I'm not going to. Okay, last step for today. Oops. Maybe get it so you can see what I'm doing. That's a great idea. That is a great idea. What is it? 2:59. Oh boy, I'm going to be a little bit late today. There we go. Where's my pin cushion? There it is. Okay. Sometimes when you use this weird ribbon bias tape, if you pull taut what you're sewing, the needle gets through it a little bit better. I think I've got a really thick needle on here too, so it was having some issues, but I'm just pulling it taut. Try not to sew over your pins. See too, you can't, but I've got this foot that the right side of it rides right up against the neck edge, and it gives me this perfect seam allowance. Yep. Back. Okay. Let's just take a quick look at it on the overhead camera. There is my neck edge. I'm going to cut this. And there is the bias tape neck edge. And then that's where the hook and eye will go. All right, so real quick, I'm gonna stand up and try to put this on my model here, my naked model. I can't unzip it because I haven't unpicked the zipper yet, but I think it will go on here even so. Look at that. Just wanted to do that because I wanted you to see. Once the hook and eye is on, it tightens up the neck edge. We have a nice little sleeve with some gathers. We've got our box pleat as well, and a functioning zipper as soon as I undo the stitches. All right, not bad. Thanks for joining me for this live stream. Like I said, I will finish up the hem on the sleeve. I'll finish up the hem on the bottom, and I will, 3 things, put the hook and eye onto it, and I will do that in a video that I'll link from these live streams. Thanks for joining us. 3:04, it's not bad. Hope to see you next week, Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern. See you then.